talk about democracy a lot in this interview. And I just can't help thinking, the SNP want a second Scottish independence referendum. You didn't like the result of the first one. You want a second referendum on Brexit because you didn't like the result of the first one. I mean, how many referendums do you need to see before you accept what people are telling you?
Well, look, the UK's in a mess. That's not my fault, and it has to work its way out of that mess. Now, let me just take on a couple of the, insinuations in that question. Yes, that's absolutely true. I didn't like the result of the 2014 referendum. I wish it had gone differently, but I accepted that result. Scotland is not independent today. I simply take the view that, particularly given everything that's happened since, in any democracy, people have a right to change their minds. And as far as the Brexit vote is concerned, Scotland voted to remain. So all I'm trying to do on Brexit is to stand up for how people in Scotland voted. We want to remain part of the European family of nations. We don't think the EU is perfect, but we understand the benefits that come from that. We don't want Scotland to turn away from that. We don't want to be closed. We don't want to be seen to be unwelcoming to those who come to our country from elsewhere. We're an open, inclusive, welcoming country, and that's how we want to stay. If Scotland is independent, we continue to be the best of friends and neighbours to the other parts of the British Isles, but we can also continue to make our contribution and play our full part in the European Union and further afield. That's the kind of internationalism that is at the very heart of the Scottish independence movement.
So if Scotland did have a second independence referendum and voted to leave, would you like to see a confirmatory referendum once the terms of the deal and the terms of the departure were made clear, like you want to see in Brexit?
No, and I don't believe that we should equate the two things. I don't believe that that is an inevitable part of any democratic referendum process. The problem with Brexit is that nobody was straight in advance of the referendum about what it meant. There was no detail. It wasn't the kind of informed decision that the 2014 independence referendum was. I oppose Brexit, as I think you've probably gathered, but there was nothing inevitable about the mess that Brexit has become. By contrast, in 2014, of course, people took different views, but there was a detailed prospectus put forward. People were very informed about the choices they were making. A lot of thought had gone into the compromises and the trade-offs that would be required if Scotland voted yes. One of the most controversial parts of the Yes campaign's proposition was a currency union, saying up front that that was one of the trade-offs that we would seek to bring about. So these two things are not the same. I would always want a Scottish independence referendum to be informed with a lot of detail so that people were taking a careful and considered decision. So let's not assume that the mess Brexit has become, and some of what might be required now to get out of that mess, is an inevitable part of a democratic process, because it is not. That's the failure of the politicians who put forward that Leave prospectus, and the ones like Theresa May who tried to implement it without recognising that she was putting forward a lot of contradictory red lines in the process.
I'm keen to talk to you as well, just as we kind of finish up, about the election that we are fighting imminently, if you like. And what would be a good night for the SNP?
Well, look, I don't put an upper limit on the ambitions of my party. We fight. We are a national party. We will fight in every corner of Scotland, in every constituency of Scotland. But I also take nothing for granted. I mean, we sometimes forget, all of us, media and indeed my own party, that before 2015, the biggest number of MPs that the SNP had ever had at one time was 11. We've now got 35. So, of course, we want to increase that tally, but it's a difficult thing to do. So we'll be fighting hard for every vote, every constituency, putting forward a very strong prospectus about the future of Scotland and the need to be the ones in the driving seat of deciding that future, and then we'll trust the people of Scotland to vote in the way that's best for the future of Scotland.
Okay, Nicola Sturgeon, thank you very much for being on the programme with us
today.
Thank you.